Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Easern, singing and telling stories from the salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that road line on the hot highway. Now there was a young woman named Hazel Bennett. She was born in a sod house in the Oklahoma Territory. Grew up in Buffalo, South Dakota. At the age of 16, she went out as a hired girl. Whenever a family had a newborn baby, Hazel would come to keep house for the family. She listened to the lullabies that the mother sang to the newborn baby. And she wrote 'em down in her book and in her heart. Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands helped the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took a pen in hand to write. Won't you think of the valley you're leaving? Oh, how lonely, how dreary it will be. Won't you think of the heart you are breaking, and be true to your promise to me? But Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands help the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took pen in hand to write. Oh, Dakota land, sweet Dakota land, as on the dugout roof I stand, I look away across the plains, and I wonder why it never rains till Gabriel does his trumpet sound, and he says the rain has gone around. But Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands help the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took pen in hand to write. Now I know there's ponies that I cannot ride. There's some of them are living, they haven't all died. But I'll bet my money there's no man alive who could stay with old Strawberry when he makes his I die. But Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands help the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took pen in hand to write. Now if I had the wings of an angel over these prison walls, I would fly. I would fly to the arms of my poor darling. There I'd be willing to die. hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands help the family carry on. Hazel's hands rock the baby every night. And that's Hazel's song, which we're singing tonight to start out with in honor of Hazel Letha Bennett Plagamar and her ballad book. Young woman who in the 1920s it started, went out in service, as so many girls did, but in a particular way. She would go to whatever neighbor's place had a newborn baby, and the mother was still in confinement. And she would care for the family. And then sometimes, before she could even get back home again, somebody come up with a buggy or a buckboard to the place where she had been serving, pick her up and her bag, and take her to the next place where another new baby had entered the world. I learned about Hazel from her daughter, Alice, at a Farm Bureau meeting in Marion, Kansas one night. And I was talking about ballad books, this custom of young women before marriage writing down the songs that their mothers sang so that they could carry them into their new household. And Alice said, I've got one of those. I've got two of them. My mother had two of those. And then she told me the story. So God bless her for leaving us a catalog of what a young woman might sing in, 1924 or so. Hazel Bennett's ballad book. And so I thought it should have a ballad of its own, and that became Hazel's Hands. Speaking of books, Dr. Kelley.
Yes, we always have books to talk about.
Are you busy this week?
Well, last week mentioned that we had a brand new book from Deborah Marquardt. Hadn't even seen it yet. It was on campus.
You have now.
Central Stores still has not delivered it to our office, so I went and fetched a few cases.
Let me bring the truck over.
Yeah. But Deb is already making plans. She's on the road, and the North Dakota Library Association is having their conference here in Fargo in October. Deb will be here during that time and doing a public presentation at Zambros during that week.
And that's Thursday night.
October 12th. 6:30, I think.
6:30, October 12th.
Yep. So put it on your calendar if you can get by.
Zambros, downtown Fargo.
Correct.
In the Possum Room.
Yes.
Can I keep this one?
Oh, yeah.
For a while, anyway?
Yes.
I love the title, Gratitude with Dogs Under the Stars. People were commenting upon the Mojo Dove buzzing around here for me.
Well, I'm not sure they know what it was. You might need
Maybe
to
not.
say.
Maybe not. They should go to their Cabela store and they'll probably have one running in there.
It's not completely visible. It's behind your shoulder, your left
right
shoulder.
Now it is. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
This is a decoy, folks. An electronic decoy. Matter of fact, Angie the history. I plugged it in. Angie the history dog, who knows the routine, heard the buzz, and she come down. She sat there and studied it a while, and she thought, Dad, I think it'd work better if you put it up outside.
Well, we did have a question whether that was a fan going, if our AC was working or not.
No, but it's an ugly night out there tonight, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Still, muggy, smoky.
I just am remembering the first time I met Deb Marquardt, and you and I went to Zambros. She was doing a reading there.
Yeah.
And Deb is a striking person. She's very attractive.
I hadn't noticed.
She sings beautifully. I'm trying to remember how this came about, but you started fanning yourself and said, "It's hot in here, ain't it?"
I don't remember that. Don't remember that. If you notice, like me croaking up a little bit during Hazel's Hands, I'm feeling the smoke, and Dr. K is too. She's going to do a reading here in a while, and if she starts to croak up, cut her some slack. It's tough here tonight. It's as smoky as it's ever been this summer. Oh, okay. I'm out of order here. Just a moment. Yes, we're supposed to be up now for the teacher's sacrifice, right? That's what your itinerary says, right, Ellen?
Yeah.
Here we go, then. All right, I love these discoveries. I love it that here in 2023, we're going back and discovering ballads a century and a half old that had their heyday, and then some of them were captured by song catchers, and so we know of them, but we didn't know much about them until recently, and then others that were just lost. And that's the story of this particular ballad. It's called The Teacher's Sacrifice. So we're still in a back-to-school mode here this week. The Teacher's Sacrifice is particularly notable because this song was written by a 14-year-old girl in Pratt, Kansas. That's the seat of Pratt County, Kansas. I find her in the 1925 state census of Kansas as a resident in Pratt, born in about 1914, it said. That makes all sense. Her parents, James and Harriet Goss. Her father was the Santa Fe depot agent in Pratt. An older brother. Yeah. Wait a minute. When is this? What's the date of the song? 1928. She would have been in 9th grade at that time. And we find out a few things about her. She was active in the local community. And here she sings a quartet at the Methodist Church with the youth group featured there. She played cornet in the school orchestra, and was in a brass quartet from the high school. And I find this note in 1929. The typewriting class took the November test, November 20th, and a few students were successful in winning an award on the Underwood test. Evelyn Downer. Does people even know what we're talking about when we say the Underwood test for typewriting? A second-year student won her silver pin, writing 53 net words per minute with 3 errors. On the Remington test, Isabel Goss, first-year typing student, won a certificate making 28 net words per minute with 8 errors. That's quite a few errors, actually. Okay. I don't hire her as a poet and not a copy editor, right? And there we are. Active Girl Scout patrol leader, played intramural basketball, worked at the Woolworth store when she was in high school, and then suddenly in 1930, I lose all record of Isabel Goss. We just know that she was an active, intelligent high school girl, a girl about town in Pratt County, Kansas, and that she wrote this remarkable ballad called The Teacher's Sacrifice. I don't think it's about a particular incident. I believe Isabel Goss in 1928 had heard the lore of blizzards and storms and country schools and teachers, and had heard previous songs on the subject, and then sat down and she wrote this. It might have been a school composition, but I don't know that it was. Come listen to my story, a tale that's oft been told. It's one of loving sacrifice as well as courage bold. It happened on the western plain many long years ago. An awful storm was raging with the wind and sleet and snow. In the schoolhouse on that fateful day, a score of lads and lasses were struggling with their lessons and reciting in their classes. Come, boys and girls, we must depart. We cannot stay here longer. We are in danger staying here. The storm is getting longer. We'll tie each other together so none will go astray. We'll go to the nearest farmhouse, which is only a mile away. They hurried along as best they could, with hardly a word to say. To the teacher's mind came the awful truth that they had lost their way. We cannot go any farther, dears. We'll turn and we'll go back. And suddenly, just before them, loomed up a huge straw stack. They made a hole in the leeward side. The children crawled in together. The preacher herself made a human door, her back exposed to the weather. So there they were found next morning. What a glad shout each did give. But the maiden failed to rally and died that the children might live. Come and listen to my story. It's a tale that's oft been told. It's one of loving sacrifice as well as courage bold. Indeed. The Teacher's Sacrifice. Isabel Goss, Pratt, Kansas, 1928. 14 years old. This is our second 14-year-old female balladeer we've discovered. The first one is little Maddie, what's her name, in the Sandhills. The Sandhills, oh my Sandhills. Yeah. Wow. What's up next, Dr. K?
Well, we can take a minute and say hello to some people who are tuned in out there.
Yeah, is anybody there?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say hi to someone who just left. Jody Neckel reports that her husband, 2 weeks out from quadruple bypass, is doing really well. So she had to duck out from the program, but we're glad to hear that news. She must make a good soup. Help him along the way.
I gather that Ken Schmier, our friend in Ellendale, is getting around again.
Yes. So after a 6-week stay in the hospital, ye gads. Yep. But good news from Calgary. Betsy Jameson reports that the smoke is starting to recede there.
Well, I've wondered how miserable it must it be on the Front Range there.
Yeah.
When clear across the southeast, across the prairies, we get it the way we have it here tonight.
Yep. It'll get better.
Yeah, we've dumped a foot of snow up there.
I suppose. Not asking for that, but that's what it takes.
Yeah. Well, we've done the Teacher's Sacrifice. That's one discovery we're bringing up tonight. We've got another one. And this one surprised me. Because there was a balladeer and homesteader named Arthur Lorraine Stokesbury. Matter of fact, I just checked the final copy editing on, no, copy editing is yet to come. I checked the final revisions on an article for Kansas History about Mr. Stokesbury, because he was the author of a song I've sung several times on the folk school here, sometimes known as the Stern Old Bachelor, but originally more commonly called just the Bachelor song by Stokesbury. I am a stern old bachelor, my age is 44. And then I've got revisions, some minor mandated revisions to make, and as I'm fooling around with them and checking some details, whoops, wait a minute, there's more about Mr. Stokesbury. There's another ballad. Oh my word. So I accounted for that in a footnote and tried to cover over. As you know, I use digitized sources quite a bit, and optical character recognition is not faultless. And so it misses stuff as you throw that net through the millions of pages. And darn if a couple of little fish didn't come up here about Mr. Stokesbury. And one of those little fish was a pretty big fish, actually. It is his other ballad. I'm sure he wrote others, but his second well-known ballad, The Homesteader's Farewell, it came to be known. And so he wrote two ballads, and he wrote them when he was in Lane County, Kansas, in 1887. No, we don't think he wrote the Lane County Bachelor. I don't really believe there's such a guy as Frank Baker. My name is Frank Baker, and which Bachelor I am. I don't think he really existed, but people believe that he did. I'm not convinced. But I also don't think that Stokesbury is the Frank Baker of that ballad. But he has his own two ballads. Now, he did sort of a rough draft of both of the ballads in a letter that he wrote from there in Lane County in 1887 back to the folks in Kingman County, from which he had emigrated to Lane County, just across the state west. And the guy's a showman, he's a humorist, he's a character, and we're gonna give you essentially the rough draft of his two ballads, which he wrote up as a little newspaper essay. Dr. Kelley is going to channel the stern old bachelor here.
I'm not going to grow a mustache or whiskers, though.
He didn't have facial hair.
Oh, okay.
Not from the description. I got no photos.
All right. Lane Licks is the name of the piece. He's writing from Farnsworth, Lane County, Kansas, June 12th, 1887. Mr. Editor, it may be possible that some of the readers of the Herald would like to know how I am situated and how I live. So if you will allow me a little space, I will inform them. My house is 10 by 12 feet, dug down 4 feet, and built up with sod and covered with boards and sod. In making final proof, such a roof is called a thatched roof. During my absence, the outside has been somewhat defaced by vandals, Texas steers, so that it is not very pretty. The inside is altogether different. In one corner sits a sheet iron stove worth 15 cents. Nearby stands a fine Occidental marble-top table made of the best of white pine. In another corner is a beautiful black walnut cupboard, so artistically designed as to look like one cracker box on top of another, and is always full of the fat of the land. Another corner is occupied by a fine mahogany bachelor's bedstead made of the best of northern pine, worth 20 cents. On this I spend my nights, dreaming of riches and rushing through the world with an ox team. Suspended by the rafters by wires is my bookcase, which greatly resembles another cracker box. The rest of the room is taken up by boxes, old boots, worn-out clothing, and other useful articles too numerous to mention. My cooking utensils and dishes consist of a frying pan, tin plates, old oysters cans, beer bottles, and jugs. With these few articles, I have prepared and eaten many sumptuous meals since I came here. My favorite dish is lacadope, which I will give directions for making. I put on the frying pan with a little grease and a spoonful of flour and gently stir it until it burns. Then I get in a hurry and dash in a little too much water and let it boil to the consistency of hot soap. Season with salt and serve hot. Mice will not eat it. My farming outfit is comprised of an ox team, wagon, plow, spade, 2 hoes, and a corn knife. It is the labor question that worries me most. If I had nothing to do, I could live happy, as all who know me will believe. I will give 1 day's routine of busyness, and that will suffice for all the rest. I awake in the morning tired and lazy, mostly tired, and after due deliberation, I get up, build a fire, put some tea to boil in an oyster can, and then go up the draw and make the oxen get up so they will eat something before going to work. I return to the shanty and fry a little meat, possibly some eggs, and after eating a square meal, I get hold of the ropes and drag the oxen off to the plow, where they take me about 10 times around an 80-rod plat. And I return to the shanty about noon, very tired. When I enter the house, the centipedes crawl back into the wall, and the crickets hide themselves to their hiding places, and all is quiet and bliss. This is my greatest consolation. I can sit down and I rest undisturbed. There is no wife to scold me and start me to the prairie with a gunny sack to rustle fuel. No children to climb on my tired knees and call me sweet pa till I am completely worn out. Oh no, it has pleased the Lord to relieve me of all such things, and I feel like hiring someone to praise him for it. I don't work and plan new and attractive dishes to excite the appetite like some women do, but simply sit down and rest till I am so hungry that I could eat a raw prairie dog, and then go to work and cook the first thing I can get my hands on, and it never fails to taste first class. This may seem lazy to some, but it is economical and saves a great deal of trouble. In the afternoon, I do about the same as in the forenoon, and wind up the day's work by getting a light supper, which I think is much more healthy than a heavy one. After thinking over the day, I repent of nearly all I have said to the oxen, and then retire for the night very tired indeed. The next day is the same thing over and ends with another healthy supper. Since I have learned to cook, I believe men can beat women at cooking, and have made a vow never to eat anything that a woman has cooked. Today, I attended a basket meeting and was invited to partake of the good things, but true to my vow, I refused and went to a grocery and got some bologna sausage and crackers because I thought some woman had done the cooking. How long this resolution will last, I cannot tell, but I dare say it will last long enough for my health. This is holding down a claim. This is what people call grit, and I've got it. But I think I will get a divorce from my claim this fall and embark in some other channel of business. However, this kind of life suits me exactly. The idea of living in an old sod house without a wife is very sweet and pleasant indeed. But I do not wish to live a life which is all sweet and no bitter, and while each day brings the same happiness, I declare that such a state of affairs shall not exist always, for I expect to die sometime. Wash day never comes with me. In organized families, theirs is 1 day of the week set apart as wash day, and it is generally a day of uproar. The night finds the poor wife with a nervous headache, and the husband up at night bathing her with camphor to keep her from taking the lockjaw, and administering paregoric to a crying infant. He sees more trouble than Peter did when his wife's mother lay sacked with the fever. All this is foreign to me. I buy 2 shirts and wear one till it is dirty, and then change and wear the clean one until it is dirtier than the one I took off. And then I change back again, and so on till they are worn out. This is another stroke of economy I have adopted, and I like it very much. If this will give my friends an idea of how I am doing, I will feel paid for the trouble of writing it. A. L. Stokesbury.
I'm kind of soaking up the character, it seems like. Okay. Now,
I kind of like that laundry routine.
from this little essay sprang two ballads. One of them was, I am a stern old bachelor, my age is 44, I cook my grub in an oyster can. That whole thing, one detail after another, we find it in this essay, and then it shows up in the ballad. And then a whole nother a related batch of details, they show up in a second ballad, just discovered 2 weeks ago. Farewell to my homestead shanty. Or it got to be known as the Homesteader's Farewell. And I say got to be known because people bandied this ballad around. I find it in, I'm sure, 40 different newspapers. It's making the rounds of the way that ballads did there in the 1880s, 1890s. They bounced from one newspaper to another by the newspaper exchange, but not entirely by that, because you find differences between the versions, which is the indication it's circulating orally and then being recaptured again and again from the air. And that's the way with folk song in the 19th century Great Plains, the combination of media that way. Well, I'm about to sing the Homesteader's Farewell, but I will say this is a song that was just forgotten. It had such a heyday. It was all over the Great Plains in the 1880s. And then it declined, but it comes back in memory. And so Addison Shelton, the Nebraska historian, in his pioneering history of Nebraska, he reproduces a text of the song in there. And then Solomon Butcher, in his book on Custer County, Nebraska, he produces a version of it. And then in 1927, a fellow from Franklin, Nebraska, Carl Spence, who was a newspaper editor of some local renown, but not known nationwide, suddenly he published a piece that got picked up and syndicated called The Passing of the Soddy, and he produced the text. Now, there's one other phenomenon about the Homesteader's Farewell. It's not as big as Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim, but it's a major folk song of the 1880s. And it's such a folk song that it has its own lore about it. So again and again, you'll find an account appearing in a newspaper that someone came along at an abandoned homestead shanty, and they found the text of this ballad lying on the table or lying on a desk or something like that. Now, what really happened was Stokesbury got out their homestead in 1887, and he was no farmer. He didn't intend to farm, but he did like many homesteaders. He was out there to take a claim, and then he might prove it up as a homestead, or more commonly, he would go ahead and pay off and commute the claim, pay $1.25 an acre for it, and after that, he could mortgage it. And with that mortgage, he opened a store. And many homesteaders did that. They would either prove up on the claim and then sell the homestead, or they would go ahead and commute, and they would then mortgage it and take the mortgage money to do what they really wanted to do. Young women would do the same thing, and then they take that money and they would pay tuition and go get a teaching certificate or something like that. So that's the story of the teacher's sacrifice. It captures this homesteading showman and humorist, Arthur Stokesbury, in a moment of attitude, but also in the middle of a transaction. He's getting away to pay his $1.25, get off this homestead, move to town, and get on with another way of life. Farewell to my homestead shanty, I have made my final proof. The cattle will look down the walls, someone steal the roof. Farewell to my sheet iron stove, it stands in the corner all cold. The good things I've baked in thy oven, language can never be told.
Farewell to my cracker box cupboard with the gunny sack hung for a door. Farewell to your store of good things that I never will want anymore. Farewell to my little pine bedstead, 'twas on thee I slumbered and slept. Farewell to the dreams that I dreamed while the centipedes over me crept. Farewell to my down-holstered chair with the bottom swagged down to the ground. Farewell to the socks, shirts, and breeches that filled it again to the round. Farewell to my nice little table where I've oft put under my feet and shows from the bounty of good things, substantials of life for to eat. Farewell to the sourdough pancakes that none but myself could endure. If they didn't taste good to a stranger, they were sure the dyspepsia to cure. Farewell to my tea and my crackers. Farewell to my water and my soap. Farewell to my sorghum and pancakes. Farewell to my lalaka dough. Farewell to my entire homestead. Farewell to your hills and your sand. I've covered you up with a mortgage. Farewell to my quarter of land. Farewell to my entire homestead. Farewell to your hills and your sand. I've covered you up with a mortgage. Farewell to my quarter of land. You know, and that last take through it, Dr. K, strikes me as the elemental existence there. Yeah. The inventory of the household. My cracker box cupboard, my little pine bedstead, my little table. He doesn't dwell upon the centipedes and the coyotes and that sort of thing so much as the other homesteaders do, but these meager material possessions. He's just going to have that starving time, and then he's moving on. Now, I will say, he had his heyday. He became active in Lane County politics. He was a county superintendent in schools for a while. Then he went down in the Cherokee Strip, and things didn't really work out that well for him there. Eventually was died and buried in Goldtree, Oklahoma. I think he found a little bit of equilibrium in his late years, he and his wife, because the Bachelor Homesteader married before he left Lane County, and their son Paul became quite a famous baseball pitcher in northwest Oklahoma. That's the Homesteader's farewell. I think it's just another signal discovery that's come by way of the Willow Creek Folk School. Cool. Some stuff going on. I clipped a couple of things. And if you look above where this episode is running on the Plains Folk Facebook page there, you'll see a link to a calendar, the Heritage Trails calendar. And it's got some events, including the ones I've noticed on here. But it's kind of a guide to stuff going on here. This will be, as we've been talking about in past weeks here. I mean, when you get warm weather for a while on the northern plains, you make the most of it, and a lot happens. For instance, this weekend, actually starting today, the Almont Labor Day reunion. Now, that's just west of the Missouri River, but Almont is a little bit, well, no more than a little bit, off the beaten path. And it's well known for its lutefisk feed in November, but this isn't that. This is an all-day set of activities: street dance, tractor pull. I'm looking down. Oh yes, in the afternoon they're going to singing down in the museum in Almont. And at 3 p.m. at the museum in Almont, there's an advertised sing-along. Well, I don't think we're going to make it, Dr. K.
the Muddy Creek Saloon and other vendors will be putting out food. It's probably going to be a standoff between the Muddy Creek Saloon and the United Lutheran Church ladies as food vendors that day. Go catty corner up to the northeastern part of the state. I think maybe the big powwow of the weekend is coming up, the Turtle Mountain Chippewa Pembina Labor Day powwow, and that's a lot of stuff to put in the name of it. But that's going on September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Here's what's got my attention. They've got host drum is Amada Pachuta, but there'll be other drum groups, of course. Prizes for the singing contest. 5 places, total of $10,000 prizes for the singers. This is not even getting to the dancers. The singers prize totaling $10,000. This is a serious powwow. It's at the Belcourt Powwow Grounds, a mile east of Sky Dancer Casino.
Pretty sure if you showed up there, you might see Denise jingle dancing around in the...
I think they'd be pretty darn sure he would, yeah. Well, finally, if you really get desperate or something to do, you'll find on that same page posted a notice of what's going on Sunday afternoon at Fort Abercrombie State Historic Site. That's only about 40 miles from here, Dr. K, maybe 35. That's because she's driving down with me, 2 o'clock. We've moved it. This is the 3rd year in a row doing a program of ballads at the fort there on Labor Day Sunday. This year, and we've done it on the back patio, and that's always kind of nice, you look around over the riverbed there. But I know it's about like 95 degrees Sunday afternoon. I know you in Oklahoma think, well, that's just perfect. We start to come out again at 95. But no, we'd have dead Norwegians all over the place. We're assembling them on a concrete patio at 95 degrees. Yeah, but we're going to the gallery. And doing some ballads of the Great Plains. I don't know if we'll do these same ones or not. Probably others.
There's also another event on Sunday at Whitestone.
Oh, yeah. I'm not certain that's a come all ye proposition, however.
Oh, okay.
It's a Whitestone Hill commemorative ride, which takes place every year.
Okay.
It's not necessarily wide open to the public.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, we've been getting the notes because of friends involved in it.
Okay.
Well, what we're going to do to wrap up here, you can't see it on this side of the camera, but on the other side of the camera, there is a fearful, and I mean scary, mountain of produce accumulated coming out of the garden back over here, over my shoulder. So this week's calendar ballad is going to take cognizance of that stuff. And I tell you, you may notice I got bison green and yellow on tonight because bison are kicking off at, what time is it tomorrow? 2:30, I believe, against Eastern Washington. And we'll be trying to work through some of that produce, making egg rolls out of our Asian radishes.
Those are going to be so good.
Asian radishes, and what else do we put in those? Carrot.
Some hamburger, maybe.
I don't know, maybe some meat, yeah, or pork. Probably pork. And maybe some onion. But they'll be darn good, yeah.
Yeah. And they'll be fried.
But that won't use up much of the stuff. We're gonna have to eat a lot.
I got enough stuff to make 40 egg rolls.
Well, as I was dealing with the 40 egg rolls, that's not going to touch it. As I was dealing with the garden here this week, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I was also looking over this new first edition of Sackett and Cook. Bill Cook, I didn't know Sackett, but I knew Bill Cook. Their book, Kansas Folklore. And also digging into this book, which is overdue at the library, Dr. K. Why don't you keep track of those things? Folklore from Kansas by Bill Cook, his collection of stuff, mainly gathered by his students from the field across the Central Plains. And as I'm going through that, I began to realize, oops, I think I see a ballad coming on. So this is a ballad called So They Say, after Bill Cook's Folklore from Kansas. And what key was I doing this? Oh, okay. Now it's one for the blackbird and one for the crow, One for the cutworm and one for to grow. Throw your old broom away, pack a buckeye for luck. Raise your feet when you're crossing the tracks in your truck. Did you ever do that, Dr. K? You're crossing the railroad tracks? Pick up your feet? When you cross the railroad tracks,
Yes.
you pick your feet up off of the car floor.
No.
You're so young. You probably don't know about cattle guards and beer cans either, do you? Cross a cattle.
I've gone over some and
When you cross a cattle guard, you open a beer. You have to drink the beer before you reach the next cattle guard and throw it out at that cattle guard and then open another.
we didn't have rules like that.
Don't plow on Good Friday, remember the dead. But if it rains on Easter, there's a good crop ahead. If the moon it is waxing when you plant your root crops, you'll find in the summer they've all gone to tops. You plant your potatoes by the dark of the moon on St. Patrick's Day if it isn't too soon. You set your tomatoes by the full moon in May, and if you want hot peppers, plant angry, they say. Get your cucumbers planted by the first day of May, and if you find you'll have more than you can give away. But you better take care before on them you dine. Cucumbers are poison, better soak them in brine. For the blackbird and one for the crow, one for the cutworm and one for to grow. Throw your old broom away, pack a buckeye for luck. Raise your feet when you're crossing the tracks in your truck. Oh, there's a rainbow in the morning, so hunters take warning. Put a rainbow at night is a hunter's delight. Horsehair will stop snakes, it's a trick you can try. Eat a quail every day, 30 days and you'll die. If you bury a possum by the chicken house door, you'll find you are troubled by possums no more. When approaching a skunk, pick him up by the tail. Let me know how that works, but they say it won't fail. It's a one for the blackbird and a one for the crow, one for the cutworm and one for to grow. Throw your old broom away, pack a buckeye for luck. Raise your feet when you're crossing the tracks in your truck. Deer and the antelope play. Come listen to my story, a tale that's oft been told. 'Tis one of loving sacrifice as well as courage bold. It happened on the western plains so many years ago. Awful storm was raging, with wind and sleet and snow. Thank you, Isabel Goss. Hazel's hands lit the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands helped the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked a baby every night, still took pen in hand to write. Hazel Bennett Plagemeyer. Farewell to my homestead shanty, I made my final prove, and the cattle will hook down the walls. Somebody's gonna steal the roof. Farewell to my sourdough pancakes. Oh,
that none but myself could endure. They don't taste good to a stranger, they that dyspepsia could cure. Oh, but it's one for the blackbird, one for the crow, one for the cutworm, one for to grow. Throw your old broom away, pack a buckeye for luck. Raise your feet when you're crossing the railroad tracks with your truck, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy, are not cloudy all the day. Listen to my story, tale that's oft been told. Skies are not cloudy all the day. Dr. Kelley.
We need to mention that next Friday we won't be having the folk school, but if anybody cares to join us, we will be out at the Steam Thresher Show, South Central Steam Thresher Association. It's going on all weekend. I'll be working in the museum for the letterpress printing.
Yes, indeed.
So that's next weekend. All right, we now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again 2 Fridays from now, 8 p.m. Central Time, for more songs and stories.